You think that a day after Boeing announced it's halting production of the 737 MAX plane, the stock would be lower. That was not the case today. Boeing shares actually basically managed to finish unchanged. And while the production halt did not impact the stock too much today, it could have an impact on the entire American economy. Steve Liesman back at HQ with more on this story. Steve.
It may be hard to imagine, but economists estimate that Boeing's decision to halt production of the 737 MAX can lower overall U.S. economic growth in the first quarter and maybe do so measurably. The negative effects, they estimate, could be even larger than last year's government shutdown. Forecasters at both J.P. Morgan and Oxford Economics say the production halt could shave as much as a half a point off of first quarter growth. Problem is that the first quarter outlook was already looking weak. Now it could come in closer to 1% instead of 1.6. That will make it one of the weakest quarters in years. Growth is expected to rebound when production returns, but when that happens is an open question.
At this point, we're facing a situation where you're going to have probably about 450 aircraft in inventory because Boeing will finish producing currently the aircraft in process now. The international regulators still have to act, and while we assume that Europe might be relatively soon after the United States, who knows when the Chinese and other major markets may look to obviously fall in line.
For now, Boeing has said it won't lay off any of the 12,000 workers who build the 737 MAX. But if the stoppage grinds on, suppliers might find it tough to hold the line on jobs, and eventually Boeing could as well. Back to you, Brian.
All right, Steve Liesman on that big story. So, Karen, what do you think? I mean, not only just Boeing, but Boeing's impact on so many other companies.
Well, that number is enormous. Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised that it's that big. Obviously, it depends on how long they are out, how long they stop production for. But I find it hard to believe, actually, 0.6% or 0.5%.
You calling Steve a liar?
I'm not calling Steve a liar. I don't know. That seems too high for me. As it relates to the stock, kind of interesting we talk about stock stopping going down on bad news. Well, this is, pretty bad news. It wasn't the most shocking. There were stories that this might happen, but
stock is held up.
It's held up. I'm not long.
What are you guys talking about? It's down 4.3% yesterday on this news. It was just confirmed after.
Year or so.
Yeah, but it's traded in a range that's been, miraculous when you consider what the stock had done going into.
I just thought you meant yesterday on this halt.
No. Yeah. And I think it's because, Dan, you've got this situation where it looks like like Phil LeBeau told us today, when customers are canceling orders for the MAX, they're just buying a different Boeing jet.
Okay.
So Boeing is winning from itself.
Fine, but owning the stock, and this is where I'm going to kind of pass the baton to you. Okay. We talk about cash flow. When's the last time you've seen a company like this have a 99% cash flow hit in a year?
Yep.
That's when things start to get really serious, and that's where this stock range with what's your number, 320 or something like that? That's where it starts to come into question.
All right, so let me grab the baton.
Yeah, there you go.
Coming over here now, and you're right. So what we talked about even yesterday when this news came out, this was a free cash flow machine. And they went from essentially being 0.4 times net leverage to now they're about 2.1 times because they're building. They don't want to furlough. They don't want to do X, Y, and Z. I think in terms of the impact of the overall economy, think about also some of the growth that they might have pulled forward. I mean, they were just building away on planes, and they're going to have, I think, closer to 500 planes on inventory by the end of the year. But back to the stock. Remember, what was the reason why they made this announcement? I think it has a lot to do with showing the FAA that we're going to take it easy here. We're not going to get ahead of you. We're not front running the news. We're trying to manage expectations. And that doesn't necessarily mean things are going to be as bad as they said.